Emily thought she was just coming to Dr. Phill to clear the air, but what she confessed that day shattered a man's entire identity. For 28 years, she carried a secret so heavy it reshaped every life around her. When Dr. Phill leaned forward and asked one simple question, the truth broke every heart in the room. The cameras were rolling. The audience was silent, and Emily whispered words that would change everything. The show begins with tension so thick you can feel it through the screen. Emily sits under the studio lights, her hands trembling in her lap. She's 52, but the weight of her secret makes her look older. Her eyes dart from Dr. Phill to the audience and back again. You can almost hear her heartbeat over the silence. Dr. Phil's voice is calm, measured. "Emily," he says, "you've asked to be here today because you said there's something you've been hiding from your son, something that's been eating away at you." Emily nods, her lips pressed tightly together. "Yes," she whispers. "I've lied to everyone, including myself." The camera cuts to the backstage monitor. Daniel, her son, is pacing, confusion etched across his face. He's in his late 20s, tall, serious, a man who's come here believing he's about to help his mom open up about the past. But he doesn't know what that means. Not yet. Dr. Phill leans forward slightly, breaking the stillness. "Emily," he says softly, "tell me what you came here to say." She exhales, a sound that's half sob, half surrender. "My son, Daniel." She pauses, her voice cracking. He doesn't know who his real father is. The air in the studio disappears. You can almost feel it through the screen, how time stops in that second. Daniel freezes backstage, staring at the monitor, his face draining of color. The camera lingers on Emily's trembling hands. Dr. Phill doesn't rush her. He just says quietly, "What do you mean by that?" And then, Emily whispers the words that have haunted her for nearly 3 decades. "Michael isn't his father. I lied. All these years." Gasps ripple through the audience. The shot cuts to Daniel again, his expression unreadable now, a storm brewing behind his silence. Emily buries her face in her hands, sobbing. "I thought I was protecting him," she says, "but I was really protecting myself." Dr. Phil's tone is steady, but his eyes are serious. "Emily, secrets like this don't just disappear. They grow roots." She nods, tears streaking her face. "I know," she whispers. And now they're tearing everything apart. The narrator's voice enters softly over the scene. For 28 years, one lie built a life. But now, in front of millions, that life is about to come undone. The camera slowly pans to Daniel, standing just outside the studio doors, breathing heavily, eyes glassy with disbelief. The producers are whispering, he's about to walk out. And that's when Dr. Phill asks the question that seals the moment in TV history. "Emily," he says, "who is Daniel's real father?" Emily hesitates. Her mouth opens. Then, black screen. The music swells. Because the truth she's about to reveal will change not only Daniel's life, but hers forever. What drives a mother to hide the truth from her own son? For almost 3 decades. We rewind to 1997. The world looked simpler before cell phones, before social media, before truth could travel at the speed of a text. Emily was 23 then, living in a small Texas town where everybody knew your name and your business. She worked at a local diner, serving coffee to the same old faces every morning. Her fiancé, Michael, was the kind of man people described as steady. He had a quiet smile, a good job at the lumber yard, and planned for a family. But what Emily remembers most about that year isn't the wedding dress she never wore. It's the night she met David. David wasn't from town. He had the look of someone who'd lived too much, too fast. A grease-stained jacket, hands rough from work, and a smile that could disarm anyone. He just started at the auto shop next to the diner. He used to come in after his shift, always sitting at the same booth, always asking for coffee, even when it was 100 degrees outside. One night, after closing, she saw him still there, flipping through a worn notebook. He looked up and said, "You ever feel like you're meant for a different life?" Something in the way he said it hit her. Maybe it was because she'd been asking herself that same question. That night turned into a conversation. That conversation turned into a connection, and that connection turned into a mistake that would echo for decades. It wasn't planned. It wasn't romantic. It was one night of confusion between two people trying to escape their own loneliness. But 1 month later, Emily found herself staring at a pregnancy test in her bathroom, the small plastic stick shaking in her hands. The result was positive. Her first thought wasn't joy. It was terror. She thought of Michael, how proud he was to start a family, how the town would whisper if they knew, how her parents, good church-going people, would turn away. And then she made a decision, the kind that rewrites lives in silence. She told no one, not her friends, not her mother, not even David. She let the world believe the child was Michael's. The wedding went on as planned. Michael cried when he held the baby for the first time. He named him Daniel. Emily said nothing. She smiled through the guilt and told herself it's for the best. But the human heart doesn't keep secrets well. Each year, that lie grew heavier. When Daniel turned 6, Emily would look at him and see David's eyes staring back. When he laughed, it was David's grin. And every time Michael kissed his son goodnight, Emily's stomach twisted with the same silent fear. One day, this will come out. She tried to bury it, but guilt has its own voice. Some nights, she'd lie awake next to Michael, staring at the ceiling, whispering apologies to no one. Years later, she'd tell Dr. Phill, "It started as a secret to protect my family. But the longer I kept it, the more it destroyed me from the inside out." The narrator's tone grows heavy. In small towns, people say the truth always finds its way out. But for Emily, it would take nearly 3 decades and a son's search for identity to finally bring it to light. Because every lie has an expiration date. And for Emily, that date was about to arrive sooner than she ever imagined. How long can love survive when it's built on a lie? Daniel grew up believing every word his mother told him. Michael, his dad, was the picture of calm authority. He built Daniel's first treehouse, taught him to ride a bike, even coached his little league team. And when Michael left for work each morning, Daniel would chase after him, yelling, "Don't forget me, Dad." To the outside world, they looked like the perfect small-town family. But behind every birthday candle and photo frame, there was a silence only Emily could hear. The silence of what she wasn't saying. When Daniel turned 12, that silence became permanent. Michael walked out. No note, no explanation, just gone. Emily told Daniel he'd left because of money problems and stress. But that wasn't the truth. Deep down, she feared he might have suspected the secret she had buried for years. That night, Emily sat on the edge of her son's bed as he cried, whispering promises she couldn't keep. "I'll always tell you the truth, okay?" she said softly. He nodded, wiping his eyes. He believed her. Years passed. Daniel grew strong. Physically, mentally, emotionally. He was the type who handled pain by working harder. The kind of man who never asked for help. He went to college on a scholarship, worked 2 jobs, and graduated early. On the outside, his life looked clean and controlled. But inside, he carried a quiet ache, an emptiness he couldn't explain. He used to joke with friends that he didn't look like anyone in his family. His mom brushed it off with laughter, saying, "You've got your grandpa's stubbornness." But that ache in Daniel's chest, it never left. Then came the day that changed everything. A coworker at his office had been talking about genealogy kits, those simple DNA tests that connect you to your ancestry. "It's wild," she said. "You can find long-lost relatives, even siblings you didn't know existed." Daniel laughed. "What would I even find? My family tree's just 3 branches and a whole lot of confusion." Still, he ordered one, just for fun. Weeks later, the results arrived in his inbox while he was on his lunch break. He clicked the link casually, never expecting his entire world to tilt. The first thing that hit him wasn't the percentage breakdown of heritage. It was the parent match section. Under father, there was a name he didn't recognize. David Harper. Not Michael. Not anyone he'd ever heard of. Daniel froze. He refreshed the page. Same name. Then he Googled it. A face popped up. Older now, weathered but unmistakable. He'd seen that jawline before in his own mirror. Confusion turned to nausea. His hand shook. He called his mom immediately. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice steady but sharp. You ever heard of someone named David Harper? The silence on the other end of the phone said everything. Emily's breath hitched. Why are you asking? I took one of those DNA tests, Daniel said slowly. It says he's my father. She tried to laugh it off, said those things were never fully accurate. But her voice trembled. Her sentences broke. And Daniel, he could hear the lie, just like he used to hear her pacing in the kitchen at night when she thought he was asleep. That was the first time he felt something inside him crack. He hung up without saying goodbye. That night, Emily sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her old photo box. She pulled out a faded picture, David in his work uniform, smiling beside that diner she used to love. She ran her finger over the face she'd tried to forget. The truth she'd buried for nearly 30 years was now alive again, alive inside her son's DNA. The narrator's voice grows quiet. Secrets can sleep for decades, but they never die. They wait, patiently, for the moment you stop running. Emily knew that moment had come. And Daniel? He was about to demand the truth she'd sworn she'd never tell. What happens when the truth finds you before you're ready to face it? The studio lights fade up again. The sound of Daniel's shoes echoes as he walks toward the stage. But before that moment, before the cameras and the audience, there was a night no one saw. It happened 2 weeks after that phone call. Emily was at home, sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't sipped in hours. The air smelled like rain. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and her own thoughts whispering, "He knows." Then came a knock on the door. When she opened it, Daniel stood there, eyes cold, face pale. He didn't say a word. He just stepped inside and held up a folded piece of paper. His DNA report. "You want to tell me what this means?" His voice was calm, but his hand shook. Emily swallowed hard. "Daniel, please sit down." He didn't. He stayed standing, like he couldn't trust himself to be still. "Is it true?" he asked. "Is this man my father?" Emily's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tears welled before words could. "Daniel, I never meant for it to happen. You were a baby. I was scared." He cut her off. "So you lied for 28 years? The room filled with tension, so sharp it hurt to breathe. Emily tried to reach for him, but he stepped back. "I thought I was protecting you," she said, her voice cracking. "Protecting me?" Daniel's laugh was bitter. "From what?" "The truth." She started to cry. "From losing everything. From the judgment. From my own shame." For a moment, he just stared at her, his face caught between fury and heartbreak. "You didn't protect me, Mom," he said quietly. "You took away my right to know who I am." And then he walked out. The slam of that front door was the sound of 28 years collapsing. For weeks, Emily didn't hear from him. The silence was worse than any argument. She called, texted, sent letters that came back unopened. The weight of her choice pressed down harder than ever. One night, she turned on the TV, hoping to numb the noise in her head. That's when she saw it. Her son's name flashing on the local news segment. A journalist was reading from an open letter that had gone viral. In the letter, Daniel wrote about growing up without a father, about feeling broken, searching for answers, and finally realizing the person who had been his compass had been the one hiding the map all along. The letter wasn't cruel, it was honest. Painfully honest. He ended it with a single line: "The truth doesn't destroy families. Lies do." The next morning, Dr. Phil's team called both of them. They'd read the letter. They wanted to help bring them together, on air. At first, Emily refused. She wasn't ready to face him in front of the world. But then she saw a message from Daniel on her voicemail. If we're ever going to fix this, maybe it needs to start with honesty. And that's how they ended up here. The same studio where we first saw her trembling hands and his stunned expression. Dr. Phill looked between them and said, "Emily, today isn't about blame. It's about ownership. If you want your son back, you start by telling the truth." Emily nodded, wiping her eyes. "The truth," she whispered. "David was his father. He never knew. I told everyone Michael was, and when Michael found out, he left us. I thought I could live with that." The audience gasped. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked lost, like a man realizing his past had just been rewritten. Dr. Phill spoke gently. "Daniel, I know this hurts, but this moment, right here, is where healing starts. You can't change the lie, but you can choose what comes after it. The camera zoomed in on Daniel's face. He didn't speak. His jaw tightened. Then, quietly, he whispered, "I don't know if I can forgive her." Emily reached out, tears streaking her cheeks. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said. "I'm asking for a chance to make it right." Dr. Phill looked at them both and said softly, "Maybe that starts with meeting the man you never knew." Because waiting backstage was David, the biological father who didn't even know his son existed until now. Can a family recover from a lie that defines their entire life? The studio is silent. Cameras roll, but no one moves. Then, slowly, the backstage curtain parts. David steps out. He's older now, gray at the temples, a bit of nervous energy in every step. His hands twitch slightly as he takes his seat beside Daniel. He doesn't look at Emily right away. He just stares at the floor, then at the man sitting next to him, the son he never knew he had. Dr. Phill breaks the silence. "David," he says evenly, "did you know you had a son?" David swallows hard. "No, sir. I didn't." He glances at Emily for the first time. "If I had, nothing would have kept me away." Emily's face twists in guilt. Tears run freely now, her words breaking between sobs. "I thought I was doing what was right," she says. "I was scared. You were leaving town. Michael was stable. I convinced myself it was better that way." David shakes his head, not in anger but disbelief. "Better for who?" The audience murmurs softly, a collective ache filling the air. Daniel sits frozen between them, his eyes darting from one parent to the other. He whispers, almost to himself, "I've spent my whole life wondering why I never felt like I belonged anywhere." Dr. Phill leans forward. "And now you know." Daniel nods. "Yeah, and I don't even know how to feel about it." Dr. Phil's tone softens. "You don't have to decide today, but you do have to feel it. The only thing more painful than the truth is living without it." Emily reaches out, her hand trembling. "Daniel, I can't change what I did. But if you ever find it in your heart to forgive me, I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." Daniel doesn't move. His breathing is shallow, his eyes glassy. Then he whispers, "I don't hate you, Mom. I just don't know how to love you the same anymore." The crowd holds its breath. David, his voice rough from years of silence, says, "Son, I don't expect anything. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here." That word, son, lands heavy. You can almost see Daniel flinch at it, unsure whether to embrace or reject it. Emily looks at both men and says softly, "All these years, I thought keeping the truth would hold us together, but it only broke us apart." Dr. Phill nods. "That's because secrets don't protect people. They imprison them, and freedom only comes with truth." For a moment, the room is quiet again. Then, in a gesture no one expects, Daniel turns to David. He extends his hand. "I don't know where this goes," he says, "but I think it starts here." David takes his hand. The audience exhales as if they've been holding their breath for minutes. Emily covers her face and sobs. Dr. Phill looks straight into the camera. "This is what truth looks like. It's not clean. It's not easy, but it's real. And real is where healing begins." The narrator's voice comes in over soft piano. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing not to live inside it anymore. For Emily, Daniel, and David, today wasn't closure. It was the first page of a story they should have started 28 years ago. The camera lingers on their faces, broken, hopeful, trembling. Emily whispers, "Thank you." And for the first time, Daniel lets her hold his hand. The crowd stands in silence. No applause, just empathy. But what happened after that episode shocked everyone even more. Is forgiveness possible when the truth arrives decades too late? Or does time make it even more necessary? 6 months have passed since that day under the bright studio lights. The headlines have faded, the cameras have moved on. But for Emily and Daniel, the real story only began once the world stopped watching. In a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Dallas, a small porch light glows. Inside, Emily sits at her kitchen table, the same one where Daniel once confronted her. But tonight, the air feels different. There's no tension, no fear, just the hum of the refrigerator and the soft sound of her pen scratching across paper. She's writing in a journal now, not to hide things, but to release them. On the page, she's written 3 words: "The truth heals." A photo sits beside her coffee cup. Daniel, David, and her together at a diner booth. It's awkward, imperfect, but real. You can see the cautious hope in their smiles. After the show, Dr. Phill had connected them with a family therapist. At first, Daniel resisted, said he didn't need it. But after one tense session, something cracked open. He admitted he was tired of carrying anger that wasn't his fault. David showed up every week. Sometimes he brought old photos, other times just silence. But little by little, silence turned into stories. Stories of the years he'd missed, of birthdays and graduations he'd never seen. Daniel didn't say much, but he listened. And that was enough to start something new. Meanwhile, Emily began volunteering at a local support group for single mothers. She didn't tell them she'd been on Dr. Phill. She just listened to their fears, their guilt, their shame. When one young woman said she was thinking about hiding her pregnancy from the father, Emily reached across the table and said softly, "Don't. It will follow you for the rest of your life." The room fell silent. That silence was familiar and healing. Back in Los Angeles, Dr. Phill aired a follow-up episode. He opened by saying, "When Emily first came here, she carried a secret that defined her. But now, she's defined by something else: courage." The camera cut to an update video of the family. Daniel and David are walking along a lake trail, side by side. They don't look like father and son yet. They look like 2 men learning how to be. Emily's voice narrates over the clip. "We're not perfect. We're not fixed, but we're finally honest." She pauses, then adds, "And that's a start." Dr. Phill closes the segment with a line that sticks with the audience. The truth doesn't erase the past, but it can rewrite the future. The screen fades to a slow montage. Old photos of Daniel as a child dissolve into new ones of him and David fishing at a lake. Emily smiling behind them. The color palette shifts from cold grays to warm golds, as if the story itself is breathing again. The narrator's voice returns for the final reflection. In a world where lies can live for decades, the bravest thing a person can do is tell the truth. Because sometimes the truth doesn't just set you free, it sets everyone around you free too. Emily closes her journal and whispers, "It's finally over." But the camera lingers a second longer, because the real message isn't about ending, it's about beginning again. The final shot fades to black with a soft echo of her words, "The truth heals." If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes one honest conversation can change a life. Don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that remind us of the power of truth, family, and forgiveness.